What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero back with another fiber format video, and this one's going to be a little bit crazy. So I know in my last video I said that I was pretty much done with my regular coverage of fiber format, and I meant that. This is actually a special video that is because GBO won the latest monthly Discord server tournament. And if you want to join in any of these monthly tournaments in the future, definitely check the link down below. It's a great place to find games in fiber format or any of the other formats that I cover on the channel. But basically, they won, and as their prize, they get to sort of provide a video idea for me to do. And they looked at the card pool for fiber format. They saw Gradius. They saw Gradius' option. They saw Cyclone Laser. And they were like, make a deck with these. And so I did. And I think it's pretty much an abomination, although it's not as bad of an abomination as you might expect. But basically, the strategy of a deck like this is that Gradius' option is a monster that can't be normal summoned or set, and it can only be special summoned by selecting one face of Gradius on your side of the field. And the fact that that doesn't say targeting, and thus does not have problem-solving card text, is a sign of how bad this card is, because I don't think this card has ever gotten a reprint from its first printing. But basically, you get to special summon this card out, and the attack and defense of this card becomes the same as the attack and defense of the selected Gradius, and if the selected Gradius is removed from the field, destroy this card. Now, the reason why this can actually be somewhat of a strategy here is because its attack and defense actually, remain the same as that Gradius's, even if that Gradius's attack and defense change. So, for instance, if you equip Gradius with something like United Withstand or Cyclone Laser and boost its attack, the Gradius's options attack will also get boosted. So that's the sort of idea behind this style deck. You can potentially set up an OTK. Like, it's really tough to do. But there are worlds in which you bring out Gradius, special summon out Gradius' option, equip maybe with United Withstand or Mage Power, and then limiter removal, and that's the end of the game. Now, the reason why I wasn't planning on covering this deck originally is because I feel like this is sort of like a weaker version of other sorts of decks. Like, I feel like Hayabusa OTK is a much better deck because you don't have to play two different monsters that pair together, and you can just focus on your equip cards instead of, this abomination of an engine. But it is something that you can reasonably play, and GBO wanted me to feature it, so that's what I'm doing. So let's just go through the deck real quick. We've got 3 Gradius. We've got 3 Gradius' option because, if I'm going to make a video on this deck and I'm going to fulfill my promise, I'm not going to cut any of these cards. So we're going all in on this strategy, even if you probably shouldn't. But that's what we're doing. And we've also got some other cards to facilitate the strategy a bit. We've got 3 Mystic Tomato to search into Sangan and Witch to search out any of the pieces that we may need. Now, unlike other cards that, sort of modulate their attack and defense on field a lot, Gradius' option doesn't actually have a question mark for attack and defense. So you can actually search this card off of a Witch or a Sangan. So I valued, the tomatoes instead of like Shining Angel to bring out Gradius, because the tomatoes can effectively search out either Gradius or Gradius' option, depending on what you need to go into. So I liked that better than the Shining Angels, but you can put Shining Angels in here instead just to search out Gradius directly. For the other monsters, we've got a Jinzo because it is a machine and, it can pair well with limited removal, also shuts down your opponent's traps, and potentially sets up an OTK with Gradius and Gradius' option. We've got Injection Fairy Lily to pump in more damage. We've got Exiled Forest to act as removal. We've got Cannon Soldier to be another machine and also potentially get in for that last bit of damage. And lastly, we've got Fiber Jar to reset the game in case we're in a really bad spot. For the spells, we've got Change of Heart, Confiscation, 3 Cyclone Laser, which is the other card that I mentioned GBO asked me to put in the deck. It says you can only equip this card to a Gradius, increase the attack of the Gradius by 300 points, and when the equipped Gradius attacks a defense position monster, inflicts piercing battle damage. And again, just like with Gradius' option, this card has never really seen a reprint with problem-solving card test because it does not say piercing damage. For the other spells, we've got Dark Hold, Delinquent Duo, Double Graceful Charity. We've got a limiter removal here, as these are all machines, so you can potentially OTK with this. We've got Mage Power and United Withstand to buff up the Gradius, and that's the Gradius' option as well. We got Reborn. We've got triple MST to stop Imperial Order exactly, but it can also clear the way for OTK pushes as well. We've got Painful Choice, potentially get, what pieces we need of the combo. Also, you can deck thin things like Cyclone Laser, which, in all honesty, are really, really bad. So I do like Painful in this deck. We got Pot of Greed, Raigeki, Snatch Steal, Forceful Sentry, and then for the traps, we've got just a Call of the Haunted Imperial Order and a Mirror Force. Deck space is kind of tight when you're playing a core of 3 Gradius, 3 Gradius options, and 3 Cyclone Lasers, so I had to be kind of selective with the card choice here. For the side deck, I mean, honestly, I didn't really put much thought into this as, I mean, I'm never siding out anything here. This deck is a complete meme, and I'm not going to really get too deep into the siding. So I just have some, like, general cards here. Double Kaiku, a Yata Garasu, Harpy's Feather Duster, and Heavy for back row focus decks, 2 Noblemen of Crossout, and a Ceasefire for flip focus decks, Scapegoat if I decide I need to get more defensive, Double Jar of Greed, and triple Torrential Tribute if I need more removal, Jar of Greed if I need more consistency. And then the fusion deck is nothing really to talk about. We're never going into that. We're just gradiating all day. So I don't really have the highest hopes for this deck, but I do think it will be a lot of fun to show off. Thanks to GBO for the video suggestion. And again, if you want to suggest a video to me in the future and get your video made, then definitely join the next monthly YGO from Zero Discord server tournament. And if you win, you'll be able to do this. But without further ado, let's dive into some games and see how this deck actually does. Okay, we've got a game against Dumbstruck here, who's a frequent guest on the channel. They play a lot of fiber format, which is pretty awesome to see. It gives me hopes that the format will stay alive after I'm done covering it. But we do win the rock, paper, scissors, so we will be going first here, and that's pretty good. We can set up an OTK. Oh, God. Okay, the Gradius was a good draw here. That really ties the thing together a little bit. We can bring out Gradius, special summon Gradius' option. We've got Cyclone Laser and Mage Power to buff up our Gradius to 2,500. So that's 5,000 on board already. If we draw some more equip spells, that could be the end of the game. And Dark Hole can clear our opponent's monsters here. So we're just going to start out with a Sangan. If they hit over the Sangan, that'll help us deck thin. It's also a chump blocker, so it's fine in that way. I could have, I guess, summoned it to play around Nobleman, but I don't really care much about Nobleman here. And, well, they've got Nobleman, so maybe I should have cared. They're going to bring out Injection Fairy Lily attack in, and they are indeed going to pay the 2,000, so drop us down 3,400. And then they're just going to pass back to us. Wait a minute. We could actually do this. Ooh, we could actually do this. Hold on. We got to do some math here. But after mathing a bit, we do realize that this will actually be exact lethal. So we're going to fire that Dark Hole, summon out Gradius, special summon out Gradius' option, equip our Gradius with Mage Power and Cyclone Laser here to puff up our Gradius to a whopping total of 3,000. So that means Gradius' option will also be 3,000. So this will be 6,000 damage total. And wouldn't you know it, our opponent is at 6,000 life points. So, surprisingly, we actually managed to pull it off by the skin of our teeth here with Cyclone Laser, Gradius, and Gradius' option all in one go. So, I mean, GBO, if you're not satisfied with that, I don't know what you'll be satisfied with. But clearly, this is a sign that Gradius is the best deck out there. And we're just going to go into game 2. I don't really mix up anything, as I feel like game 1 showed that this deck is perfect already. So, not really much we can improve on. Opponent's going to start out with a Graceful Charity. That's kind of unfortunate. They're going to pitch a Serpent and a Sangan. Fire a Delinquent Duo. That's kind of rough here. Let's see what they roll. They're going to hit a Sangan. We're going to discard this Tomato. We've got the OTK pair right here. We can't send those to the graveyard. Opponent's going to set 3, pass back to us. We draw an MST, which is good. This is installation in case they've got Imperial Order. We're going to go for a Pot of Greed here. Draw 2. Maybe we should have discarded the Gradius after all. This isn't the worst thing in the world. We'll just bring out Gradius, see if they do anything. Looks like they're not. We're going to attack in their set, and this is the big brain play behind playing Gradius. It's got 1,200 attack. That pairs perfectly into Witch's 1,200 defense. We're depriving our opponent of a search. They can't get over Gradius with Witch. Checkmate. It's just that easy, baby. Gradius, best deck. We're going to set this MST, pass back to our opponent, and they're going to summon out a Kaiku. Well, we can't deal with that. But they'll hit into our Gradius here. We'll take 600, and they'll banish a Pot and a Sangan from Grave. That's kind of unfortunate. We draw Imperial Order, which is pretty nice. So we're going to bring out this Injection Fairy Lily, just try and bait out removal, and try and hit in to this Kaiku. So we will make it to the damage step, pay 2,000, and that will get over the Kaiku. We'll set an Imperial Order here just to stop any potential spells. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw Mage Power, so we could potentially go for something here. And I think about it, and I actually will indeed go for it, because this actually will be game if it goes through. The only thing that really stops this is, like, Mirror Force, which, you know, I'm fine playing that. It's a one-of card, so I just got to go for the OTK push here. You may say that this is a bit greedy. I'd argue that in this sort of deck, you can't afford not to get greedy. So we're going to start by attacking into Gradius' option. This way we don't have to pay 2,000 if they do have a Mirror Force that they want to save. Unfortunately for us, that will get Mirror Force. So we do lose our entire life savings on that, and we're in a really tough spot now. Not the end of the world. There are still things that get us out of this, but it is kind of rough. Opponent's going to switch that witch to attack in for 1,100. And then they're going to set one pass back to us. We draw a Gradius here. We're just going to pass back to them. No need to commit this to board when it's very fragile. We want to potentially draw into some more OTK pushes here. They're going to attack in with a witch again. We'll take another 11. And we're at risk of Lily killing us. But, ooh, Cyclone Laser. Ooh, this is actually kind of interesting. We may actually get to use its effect. We're going to go for the Cyclone Laser there. They're going to try to Imperial Lord because they know how powerful Cyclone Laser can be. But we've got the MST here to stop that. So our Cyclone Laser will indeed go through, buff our Gradius to a powerful 1,500 attack, and we'll be able to hit into their set. And it does inflict piercing damage, so that's a whopping 1,250 damage. We're whittling down our opponent. They can't get over a 1,500 attack point Gradius. It's impossible. There are no cards in their deck that can deal with this board. It's just too good. I mean, well, that is a card that could potentially deal with a 1,500 attack point Gradius. That's a bit worrying. They're going to buff that up to 2,500 attack in for 1,000 here, and then attack in for another 1,100, and we are in massive danger here. We do draw a Fiber Jar, though, so if anything can get us out of this, it will be that. We are going to... Oh, well, they got knocked, but we've got IO, so that's pretty good on our part. There are still worlds in which we win this game if this Fiber Jar resolves well. So we're going to shuffle back everything. Unfortunately, they did not normal summon this turn, so they will be able to normal summon after, you know, this resolves. But I feel pretty good about this overall. This is not the best start if we want to actually OTK our opponent on the next turn, but I mean, it's not terrible. Mystic Tomato ain't bad. And Painful Choice can get us something too, so it's not the worst by any means. Our opponent's just going to T-set, pass back to us. We draw Raigeki. I don't think there's a way we can OTK here, but we're going to go for a Painful Choice here. And we're going to send a couple. So we're going to send Forceful, Triple Gradius, and Change of Heart. Now, the reason we do this is we want our opponent to be afraid that we do have the Gradius OTK option, but we just need a Gradius to make it all work. So we're kind of trying to bluff our opponent like, oh, you're just dead this turn. You can't give us Gradius. You got to give us one of these other powerful cards here. Unfortunately, the bluff does not work, and they do indeed give us the Gradius, so we're kind of out of luck. We do fire an MST on the back row, and we will just, you know, Raigeki their set. It's a Sangan. They grab a Witch, and I think I actually might have to Confiscation this, so that's what we are going to do. We're going to see what they've got, and this is a rough hand. Yeah, this is pretty bad for us. It's a bit of an interesting choice, because we've only had 100 life points. We're at very big risk of a lot of things potentially killing us here. Yeah, this is really rough. I think maybe, I mean, yeah, we get rid of the Snatch Steal, because if we ever bring out a monster, we're just dead to Snatch Steal. So I figured it's probably better hit that than one of the monsters there. But yeah, it's not looking good no matter what we do. So we're just going to set a Tomato. At least we're not dead given what we know of. But they top deck Change of Heart, and that will indeed kill us. So nothing we really could have done about that, honestly. So yeah, I mean, maybe if we had sent different things about the Painful, it could have been different, but we didn't have the OTK in hand that turn, and there's no real way to get to it. So, you know, one loss here is not enough to stop the tier 0 Gradius OTK dream that we've got in place here. So let's dive into that game 3. The deck is perfect, as I mentioned before, so, you know, nothing that we need to really side out. And, oh, with a hand like this, I mean, this is just too good. We got Gradius' option, and this is a bit awkward. And we send the hand rips for sure here. And then we got to think about the other two. We actually send 2 Cyclone Lasers. And the reason for this is we want to deck then, get these Cyclone Lasers out of our deck because they're terrible to draw. And we are about to draw with Pot of Greed. I could have maybe gone for like, United We Stand or Mage Power to potentially set up the OTK later. I do have Gradius' option in hand. But I don't think that that's enough to actually, you know, set up the OTK quickly. So I do just go for the Cyclone Lasers for the consistency here. But I think in hindsight, I probably should have just gone for United We Stand or a Mage Power, and that might have actually changed the outcome of this game a bit. We draw double Gradius' option and an Exiled Force. That's not the best. We're going to set an IO and an MST here. pass back to them, and they've got a Sangan, so they'll be able to bring that out, hit in for 1,000 here, and that's fine by us. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We do draw Gradius. So if we had actually gone for... I mean, if we had actually gone for United We Stand or Mage Power, we would have actually won the game here. Because what we could have done is we could have MSG'd their back row, Darkhold the board, brought out Gradius, brought out double Gradius' option, and equipped it with Mage Power or United We Stand. And that would have been enough to win the game here. Unfortunately, we didn't go for that line. And, given deck shuffles, who knows what we would have drawn if we had set different cards instead. But yeah, it's kind of unfortunate here. Something to keep in mind for the future. I mean, if you're actually planning on building a serious Gradius and Gradius' option deck, you should just cut Cyclone Laser entirely because it's bad. I mean, Axe of Despair is going to be much better than Cyclone Laser in pretty much every case. But, it is what it is. And yeah, so we may not have the line here to lethal that we otherwise would have. Our opponent's going to bring out over to Black Forest. Just pump up the pressure here. Get him for 2,100. You might wonder why we didn't Imperial Order on the knock. And the reason for that is, I don't really value preserving the set exiled force when our opponent can likely get over it with another monster. So I'm saving the knock for something a bit better. We draw Interjection Fairy Lily here. If we summon an attack, we basically just lose the game if we actually want to hit in, because we take 2,000, drop down to 2,900. Our opponent gets another monster. They can attack twice over Interjection Fairy Lily, and yeah, that's pretty bad. So we're setting in defense. They can't actually get over it yet. But that exiled force will be able to deal with it, which is a little bit unfortunate here. As we did want to wall up a little bit. Opponent's going to attack in for 2,100 here. Pass back to us, and we draw an MST, which is not useful. We're going to set that pass back to them. Maybe we should have Darkhold here, because, they're going to drop us down pretty low either way. But I figure, we want to save the Darkhold in case we do draw the way to OTK, because we've got a couple ways in our deck to OTK. We've got limited removal, we've got we stand, we've got Mage Power. That's 3 ways to OTK with this setup of cards here. Actually, if we get double Cyclone Laser, no, that's definitely not an OTK. But yeah, so Cyclone Laser, not good. They're gonna fire Painful Choice. We're just going to go for an Imperial Order here. They're gonna attack in for 2,100, and we misclick sending the IO to grave. And we draw Cannon Soldier, which isn't quite the end of the game. If we could normal summon both Gradius and Cannon Soldier this turn, it would definitely be the end of the game, because that's a lot of tribute fodder there. But unfortunately, it just won't work out that way. So we're going to set the Cannon Soldier, set a Cyclone Laser, pass back to them. And hopefully they can't get over this. They've got Darkhold, which we... maybe we should have IO'd that. Oh no, we used up IO already. Never mind. We can't IO that, so that will indeed go through, and we're in a really tough spot here. So yeah, I mean, they search out Gemini Elf, which means that they can kill us. We don't have any live back row. I'm just gonna end the game now to put us out of our misery. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of the game. And again, if I had searched out different equip cards with the Painful Choice, I think we could have won this third game. And that shows that this deck, while being terrible, is not the worst thing in the world. It can win games occasionally. However, the reason why I didn't actually want to cover it in my regular coverage of the format is I feel like there are other decks that just do what this deck is doing, but better. So just decks that can get aggro. For instance, Hayabusa OTK. Whereas Gradius OTK needs Gradius and Gradius' option to actually work out. Hayabusa Knight just needs Hayabusa, which means that you can focus more on the buffs to Hayabusa, like the equip spells. You can also use things like Reinforcement the Army to search out Hayabusa Knight. So that's just the better OTK deck. This deck can OTK, but it's just much more fragile, and the combination is much more complicated. So I don't really think it's as good, even though, we did get to see in game 1 the deck pop off, which I'm really happy we did get to show off. But what are your thoughts on this deck? I don't necessarily like it, but I'm sure that there are people out there who will defend this deck and say that it's actually a lot better than I think it is. I'm sure there will also be people who say it's a lot worse than I think it is, and that the only reason I won game 1 was a complete fluke. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. And also, if you enjoy this sort of content, please do subscribe. I'm planning on moving on to the next format soon, after Fiber format. So, if you do like my fiber coverage, hopefully you'll find that interesting as well. But if you do want to play fiber as well, I've got a lot of other videos on fiber, and also the Discord server is a great place to find games in that format and also any of the other formats that I covered. I highly encourage you to do so, as fiber is a real blast. So I've been really surprised by this format, and I'm really, really happy with it. But let me know down in the comments below all your thoughts on this video. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.